Roll for initiative, Brick Fanatics, because the long-awaited LEGO Ideas 21348 Dungeons and Dragons Red Dragon's Tale is here at last. Strap in and pay close attention to this one because it could end up dramatically shifting the LEGO ecosystem in the long term, even if in the short term it might underwhelm D&D fans looking to dip their toes into the LEGO waters for the first time. Purely anecdotal, but whenever normal people, i.e. not LEGO fans, hear that I know a thing or two about LEGO, more often than not they ask me the same question. When is LEGO Dungeons & Dragons coming? To which I naturally have to explain, it is coming, it's been confirmed, but it's not entirely what you're hoping for. Because, yes, multiple unrelated people have asked me about LEGO D&D, and purely anecdotally, it is by far the most requested LEGO set among non-LEGO enthusiasts. But here's the thing, this isn't going to scratch that itch. Let me explain. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you're already a big fan of LEGO, and you're interested to know how other LEGO fans are reacting to the new D&D set. Based on a project submission by LEGO fan Lucas Bolt, aka BoltBuilds, great name, this set was originally conceived as a competition in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the moment that the first Holy Dungeons & Dragons text sputtered forth from the mind of Gary Gygax. And immediately afterwards, parents across the world began pearl clutching because they were afraid that their kids were actually summoning the devil when they played this silly game. Why are all parents so detached from reality? It's weird. Anyway, for the 50th anniversary, the LEGO Group offered eager Ideas fans the chance to design the first Dungeons & Dragons set, and BoltBuilds' design was chosen. It is a great choice. It comes with both of the key ingredients that one would expect of the brand. There's a dragon and a dungeon. There are also some other iconic Dungeons & Dragons features. The Beholder in particular is pretty neat, so there's a healthy dose of that unique but not too unique Forgotten Realms flavour. Bolt's original design managed to make it more or less unscathed through the design process. This is still recognisably the original project submission, which is always nice to see. The LEGO Ideas designers must have been like, dragon? Check. Dungeon? Check. Right, let's go to the gastropub. And for existing fans of LEGO, particularly the LEGO Ideas theme and, oh yes, the castle theme, this set's clearly going to score a critical hit, natural 20. Just look at it, it's a big honkin' ruined castle with a giant red dragon on top, it's got these neat minifigures that perfectly reflect a party of tabletop role players, and the kind of fantasy characters they would make, like Lord of the Rings, but less awkwardly colonialist. This is going to be great for existing LEGO fans. It's not, though, going to do what Dungeons & Dragons fans are hoping for from a LEGO crossover. When in my travels D&D fans have started pestering me for news about LEGO sets, I've shown them BoltBuilds' original project submission and said, this is it, this is LEGO D&D, it's coming soon. And they've always looked a bit crestfallen. Because, for one thing, this is a nice massive castle, and it's going to be prohibitively expensive for a lot of them. Sure, it's cool, but they're pen and paper role-playing enthusiasts. They're used to paying far too much money for books, not plastic. Unless it's on dice, of course. They've all got way too many dice. But the main reason why this isn't for D&D fans is because it really doesn't do what they want, which is, let's be fair, minifigures. And not four generic but vaguely appropriate minifigures. As cool as this funky Dragonborn minifigure might be, it's somebody else's character. Because the whole point of D&D is that it's customizable, and the main reason why D&D fans are interested in a LEGO collaboration is because LEGO is also customizable. The people I've spoken to just want one thing, to make their D&D characters in LEGO form. For use in play, sure, but also as a tangible recreation of their character that they can stare at and admire. To take something that has only existed in their heads and make it real, make it physical, give it a presence in the world, in a way that's kind of possible with model kits, but would be so much better in LEGO. In other words, what the D&D fans I've spoken to want is the minifigure factory. That's it. That's all they want. That and, well, it would be nice to have some terrain and monsters, etc. for actual play as well. LEGO sets that are able to supplement roleplay. One of the big shakeups that helped to transform the D&D experience and its surrounding community was the decision to move away from rigid character maps and character models and icons so that the game could be played entirely in the mind. This works perfectly for, say, a podcast, for example, or shows like Critical Role, where viewers/listeners are able to follow along clearly without having to worry about studying a game board. It allowed for Dungeons and Dragons to reach a far wider audience as a form of entertainment, and therefore people then want to go out and buy the books themselves and try it for themselves, you know. All of that said, some people still really like the physical presence of that accompanying gubbins, the stuff on the table in front of you. Many D&D fans would love for that to be LEGO, because it suddenly opens up a world of different storytelling and role-playing possibilities when you can just chuck the rest of your LEGO collection out of campaign and see what sticks. LEGO 21348 Dungeons and Dragons Red Dragon's Tale does many things, but it does not do that. This is a display piece, first and foremost, and it's really not equipped for the player to open it up, break it apart and start treating it as a map for a play session. That's what D&D LEGO could be in the right circumstances. Now, it's not out with the realms of possibility that we get that kind of product a little further down the line. Take Sonic the Hedgehog, for example. First we had a LEGO idea set, 21331 Green Hill Zone, and then once that proved popular, we ended up with a full theme of sets that are a little more play-oriented and make an effort, albeit not an entirely successful effort, to communicate Sonic's speed with a unique gameplay mechanic. Red Dragon's Tale could potentially be that for Dungeons and Dragons. This could allow the LEGO Group to test the water, gauge consumer interest before committing to a larger selection of sets. And indeed, it does seem that the LEGO Group wants to see what can be done with D&D. With Sonic, the idea set was suggested by a fan, Toaster Girl, but with D&D, the LEGO Group specifically asked fans to come up with sets based on this IP. The LEGO Group wants to do D&D stuff, the company just isn't entirely sure what that might look like, and hence the fan involvement. And one would hope that with this new set, the LEGO Group is paying close attention to feedback received online, so that any future steps with D&D are made in accordance with what consumers actually say they want. Although what consumers actually want and what they say they want doesn't always line up. That would hopefully mean sets that incorporate the primary flexibility of Dungeons and Dragons a little more than Red Dragon's Tale does. Sets that allow for the moving around of terrain to serve different storytelling purposes, and indeed sets that allow for customizable minifigures. Perhaps something like 21337 Table Football, with just a huge pile of minifigure elements that can be mixed and matched into whatever the player wants them to look like. Or a dedicated minifigure factory or build a minifigure offering that lets people really dive deep into the customization waters. A way to make every single customer feel like their minifigure perfectly reflects their original character, no matter how oddball that original character might be. It would potentially be a very expensive service, but as mentioned, when it comes to finding exactly the right dice, D&D fans are often very happy to slap down coin. Why would customable minifigures be any different? There is, though, another side to this whole issue that does need to be talked about. LEGO D&D is significant not just because it's an attempt to expand LEGO's brand IP partners to include a tabletop role-playing game. It's also significant because it involves LEGO partnering with their sworn enemy, Hasbro. If you never stray too far from the LEGO ecosystem, it suffices to say that Hasbro is one of the LEGO Group's main rivals in the toy market. Both are fiercely protective of their various brands, and it's rare to see two big companies that are fighting over such a similar market share to collaborate on something like this. It's kind of like if Marvel and DC published a comic in which Superman and Spider-Man fight crime together. I mean, I use that as an example because it specifically has happened, but it's kind of wild that it actually happened. The same is true here. Obviously, LEGO and Hasbro are willing to put their rivalry aside for the sake of making money. And it's not like LEGO and Hasbro haven't worked together before. After all, Hasbro owns the Transformers brand. Hasbro owns Peppa Pig. There is a financial incentive for them to partner with LEGO in cases where their own attempts at connecting block toys just aren't going to sell as well. To that end, Hasbro may well be amenable to the kinds of LEGO sets that would expand and augment D&D play sessions because, well, money. But there will no doubt be the thought forever running through the minds of every Hasbro executive that touches these hypothetical sets, questioning whether they actually need LEGO for this partnership at all. Hasbro's recent management of Dungeons and Dragons, and more widely Wizards of the Coast, has not been hugely popular with their customers. A little over a year ago, a proposed change to the open game license on which Dungeons and Dragons depends meant that many fan creators looking to sell their work would have to pay Hasbro for permission to do so if their works were built upon a D&D framework. So, for example, a creator writes their own campaign for D&D and then sells it, typically completely allowed a fair use of Dungeons and Dragons and indeed a big part of the wider D&D community and the way that it's historically basically functioned. Following Hasbro's attempt to meddle with success, many creators simply said, okay, we're not making content for D&D anymore. There are a bunch of other tabletop games that we can use, or we can make our own. Hasbro doesn't own the concept of rolling dice, much as they might like to. The best analogy I can think of is, what if the LEGO Group said that everyone who sells alternative building instructions for mocks on Rebrickable had to pay for a license? If the LEGO Group tried to skim the cream off every user-created LEGO instructions changing hands, there would be uproar, and there was when Hasbro tried to do it. And at present, while they back down on that particular front, Hasbro is still trying to find a way to monetize every single session of D&D, because it's unthinkable that people could simply buy a book once and then use it for 20 years without paying Hasbro another penny. In a recent interview, Hasbro CEO Chris Cox made this statement about the future plans for Dungeons & Dragons, quote, "Generally speaking, brands that figure out how to leverage their users not just as users but as creators tend to thrive. That's the mindset we need to adopt as well." Dungeons & Dragons fans have been quick to point out that Cox's use of the word leverage could well be replaced with the more accurate exploit. That the primary goal for Hasbro is to monetize the creative works that fans are doing as part of typical Dungeons & Dragons play. What that means in practice is hard to say. I don't think Hasbro knows entirely, their previous efforts having been entirely rejected by their consumers. LEGO Ideas, though, is a pretty good example of a brand leveraging their users not just as users, but as creators. LEGO fans bring LEGO their dream project, and in a handful of cases a year, the LEGO Group takes those ideas, complete with all that delicious free consumer product testing and market research, and profits from them. Admittedly in a way where successful project creators are remunerated, but still. This is very much what Hasbro sees as the future of Dungeons & Dragons going forward. They just need to figure out exactly how to make it work. So Dungeons & Dragons LEGO could end up being a big deal for LEGO, changing the way that the company approaches sets based on licensed IPs as they explore ways of making a LEGO set more modular, reworkable, designed for a variety of different storytelling purposes. Or they could do absolutely none of that and just stick to the kind of thing they're already doing. But it could end up being a big deal for Hasbro, who are trying desperately to come up with a way of squeezing extra pennies out of their consumer base. Or, simply because of the prohibitive size and price of Red Dragon's Tail, this could end up being it for LEGO D&D and we might not get anything else. Who knows? What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget that if you are going to be buying any LEGO from the LEGO website in the near future, to use our QR code, which is currently on screen, or the affiliate link, which is in the description. Doing so gives us a little bit of a kickback and helps to keep the lights on. Make sure, by the way, that you do all of the other regular YouTube stuff. Like, share, subscribe, notification bell, etc, etc. Head to brickfanatics.com for all of your LEGO news and reviews, and sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything LEGO related ever again. Thank you for watching.